US, UK, and European law enforcement have revealed that they now know who the admin is of the Lockbit Ransomware group, and they have revealed the person's identity. We're going to talk about it in today's video. Who did they reveal, and what does it mean for this person moving forward? What's up, everyone? I am Brian with Exact IT and Cybersecurity. Welcome to today's video. So it's being reported that the FBI, the UK National Crime Agency, and Europol have unveiled sweeping indictments and sanctions against the admin of the Lockbit ransomware operation, with the identity of the Russian threat actor revealed for the first time yesterday. And according to a new indictment by the U.S. Department of Justice and a press release by the NCA, the Lockbit ransomware operator known as Lockbit Sub or Putin Crab has been confirmed to be a Russian national named Dmitry Kurochkin. He's 31 of Voronezh, Russia, who reportedly earned $100 million as part of the gang's activity. What these authorities have worked together to do is put together a picture of a person who's been purportedly the person who developed the software and the whole entire operational system for the Lockbit ransomware gang. These indictments not only were brought against this person in terms of the criminal authorities, but now we also have the various treasury offices and financial asset offices of these various countries and entities also getting involved, and that's why they brought these charges against this individual in the first place, so they could start levying sanctions against him so it's harder for him to conduct business around the world, especially outside of Russia. And it's interesting because the US government has recently put bounties on many of these cyber criminals, and this guy basically had a $10 million bounty on his head, or reward was placed if somebody could reveal the identity of this individual to law enforcement. That has now been done. There has been no reports that the reward has been paid, and obviously we're not going to really understand or know the methods of which how they figured out who this person was. Unfortunately for Mr. Khoroshev, this means that he is going to have a slew of sanctions levied against him, which will include asset freezes and also travel bans. So essentially, they have all of the Western world, all of Europe, and all of Australia basically watching this guy and making sure he doesn't go anywhere that they don't want him to go. And chances are, if he does, and it's known that he leaves certain areas where he's going to be protected and goes into areas where he's risking protection, they're going to swoop in and arrest this individual. If he's smart, he'll probably stay within the confines of Russia and where he's protected, because a lot of these cyber criminals, when they move out of those areas, they get caught fairly quickly. We just saw with the cyber criminal who was behind the Kaseya attack, which was one of the largest attacks in the IT industry to date. That individual, he just came to justice big time. They were able to get him, and he was only one of the individuals, not one of the top individuals. Imagine if that guy got what he got. Well, imagine what this guy's going to get. So it's also being reported that law enforcement feels strongly that these sanctions will cause massive disruptions to the ransomware operations as well, because they're able to sanction this guy from doing a lot of financial transactions. We'll see if that remains true. While these ransomware groups typically are taken down by law enforcement, if they're not taken down hard enough, or they're basically not arrested, in this case they're not, these guys are pretty quickly able to adapt. It's very much a cat and mouse game, so they'll figure out other ways to move money if they can. Other people will be involved. I guarantee you the money will be right where somebody will raise their hand and say that they're willing to put their name on the line for these financial transactions to move through. But we do know from past law enforcement efforts that similar sanctions against people in this position have caused ransomware negotiators to no longer assist ransomware payments for sanctioned ransomware operations. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of layers involved. Again, this is one of those things where the ransomware as a service operation that's been developed over the years that's made this more efficient for the cyber criminals kind of is backfiring a little bit on them, because now other cyber criminals are saying like, hey, we're not going to work with that guy. But this is no different than we see with any organized crime. The mafia would stop working with people all the time if they thought they were working with the FBI as well. And that's kind of what may happen here, is you kind of get looked at like, is this guy now working working for the authorities because they know who he is and he's out there and he has sanctions against them, and things happen when sanctions get placed against you. The other interesting tidbit from this law enforcement announcement is that they also announced that its hacking seizure of Lockbit's infrastructure resulted them to gain more decryption keys than previously announced. So they may be able to help certain companies that are still dealing with files that are encrypted by this Lockbit group. They have some more keys, so they might be able to help some more people without them needing to pay the ransom. And there are other Lockbit members from this group who have been taken down already by US or other authorities. There's about 5 of them, I think, at this point. One of them was previously arrested and already sentenced. And there's another one who I know is in custody awaiting trial. We've known about this Lockbit person on the dark web and in these cybercriminal forums for a long time. He was actually a pretty public person, and now we know it's Khoroshev. So that's very interesting to put a face to a name of somebody who was very public in these forums. He liked to talk to journalists. He liked to talk to cybersecurity researchers. One of the things I remember about Lockbit Sup was that he always tried to claim that he wasn't Russian and that he was from China. And here we go. We now know that he is Russian. The Lockbit Ransomware group, we've talked about them a ton on this channel over the years. They've been around, I think, since about 2019. They were under a couple different names before they were Lockbit. We kind of knew that they were Russian nationals, and they quickly became one of the largest and active ransomware operations in the history of the internet in the short period of time that we've been dealing with ransomware. As of February 2024, if we look back at Lockbit's history and their success at hitting companies with ransomware and other types of cyber attacks, they've hit 194 companies over that time. And we've already covered the law enforcement disruption of the group and how they came back quickly. They were the ones who hit United Healthcare. One of the other interesting things is that the UK National Crime Agency analyzed the Lockbit operations once they had all of this information from these various events. They are basically saying that Lockbit is responsible for extorting $1 billion from thousands of companies worldwide. So this is billions of dollars that companies have lost in revenue, have paid out to cyber criminals as a result of these activities of this one group. And there's more than just this one group out there, folks. I mean, there's big ransomware groups and there's little ransomware groups. This is a very serious and widespread problem. The DOJ said that Khoroshev and his affiliates extorted over $500 million in ransom payments. The numbers are a little off there, but maybe Khoroshev is just responsible for half of what they brought in. I don't know. I just think the numbers, how they're looking at them, how they're calculating them, probably they're not all looking at the same thing and they're not putting the same input, so they're not coming with the same output. Between June 2022 and February of 2024, law enforcement claims that ransomware operation conducted over 7,000 attacks, with the top 5 countries being hit, US being number 1, the UK being number 2, France, Germany, and then China. Lockbit is still operating today, folks. They are targeting new victims. They're constantly releasing data on the dark web. They're doing a lot out there to extort and impact businesses, but not only that, also spread the personal information, the personal private data of millions and millions of people around the world. It is evident that we are seeing the impacts of these law enforcement efforts when they put the spotlight on these groups. As these other cyber criminals, these affiliate groups, like I mentioned earlier in the video, they don't really want to work with this group anymore because you just don't really know if they're rat for law enforcement, if they're working with law enforcement, if law enforcement's monitoring them. So because law enforcement is monitoring them, potentially they could be found out themselves. The level of trust that other cyber criminals have with this group has gone down significantly since the initial takedown earlier in the year and the one in December, as well as all these criminal groups deal with law enforcement shining a spotlight on them. However, as a cyber criminal researcher, I'm here to tell you that it's like cockroaches. They just spread somewhere else. They just go somewhere else and go to work for another group. While Lockbit is kind of like the number one of the day right now, there's been other number one ransomware groups before Lockbit, right? They came on the scene and they took over, and they've kind of taken over as one of the top groups. Black Cat and Alpha V used to be there at the top. We're going to see, as this moves into the future, new ransomware groups that we've never heard of. New groups will form and they will become the number one group in history and supplant Black Cat. That's kind of how this works, and I just wanted to kind of lay that out for you because yes, these law enforcement enforcement efforts are having an impact. Historically, what we've seen is it doesn't stop these guys. It might slow them down a little bit, then they usually come back and hit harder when they reform or come back bigger, better, and more secure than before. And more than likely, just like we saw with the takedown earlier in 2024, the more likely reaction from this ransomware group, since they're still operating, and maybe some others, is going to be they're going to hit back against the US and UK very hard. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know who it's going to be, but more than likely, it's going to be one of the biggest attacks in that industry that we've seen, because this is the historical behavior pattern that we've seen with these groups. When they get hit, they love to come back and hit harder. So if they have a foothold, or they know another cyber criminal group that has a foothold on a very big entity, look out. They're more than likely going to strike. Yes, this group is reportedly, and a lot of cyber researchers out there believe that this particular group, or this iteration of Lockbit, is on its last leg. Well, they were on their last leg before and they came back even stronger, but we'll see if this takes them down any further or if they come back even stronger. But like I said, we do know they will come back in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not as Lockbit, maybe as some new ransomware group name. We'll keep you updated. Stay tuned. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to be notified when we update on the next time Lockbit or the next reiteration of this group comes about, hit that notification bell. I'm Brian. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next video. We're always open to content ideas, so if there's something you want me to cover or hear, drop it in the comments. My team will let me know, and maybe we'll create a video around that content for you. Appreciate everyone's support. We're growing at a nice pace. I am humbled by everyone's support, and we'll see everyone in the next video.